Johnny Carson, the undisputed king of late-night television, sat behind his Tonight Show desk for 30 years, shaping the rhythms of American culture with his quick wit, impeccable timing, and that unique ability to make celebrities, politicians, and ordinary guests feel like they were part of something timeless. Yet when the curtain fell on his era in 1992, the laughter and applause faded into silence, leaving behind not just memories of monologues and punchlines but also a series of intimate, unguarded goodbyes. Final words spoken in hushed tones or whispered off stage to the people who defined his journey, and it is in those moments, raw, vulnerable, and deeply human, that we discover the true Johnny Carson, the man behind the myth, the legend who, even as the world hailed him as untouchable, revealed his heart in fleeting farewells. With Bob Hope, America's eternal comedian and Carson's guiding star, Johnny's goodbye carried the weight of history, as he leaned in and whispered, "You were always the man I wanted to grow up to be," to which Hope, eyes glistening beneath his ever-present twinkle, replied, "And you did it better, Johnny." A moment where two titans of comedy, one born of vaudeville and radio, the other of television, recognized the passing of an invisible torch, not to another, but into the annals of American memory. And though the cameras never caught it, those present swore it was like witnessing the sunset embrace the dawn. Dean Martin, the eternal crooner, strolled onto Carson's stage for the last time with that effortless cool, that devil-may-care grin, and as the crowd roared, Johnny raised a glass mid-show, breaking his professional guard, telling Dean, "You made America fall in love with fun, Dean, and you made me feel like the luckiest man to call you a friend," to which Martin, sly as ever, shot back, "If I made him fall in love, Johnny, you kept him awake," and while the audience howled with laughter, Johnny's eyes betrayed something deeper, an admiration, even envy, of Martin's ability to glide through life with ease, and in that final exchange, their banter became less of a performance and more of a toast to a vanished golden age. Lucille Ball, the queen of comedy and the flame-haired icon who had conquered television before Carson, walked onto his stage like royalty, and in their final moments together, Johnny, who rarely dropped his shield of humor, let slip a reverent truth, "Lucy, nobody will ever do what you did. Nobody will ever matter the way you mattered," to which Lucy, her eyes glistening but her dignity unbroken, replied, "Then promise me you'll never stop reminding them to laugh," and in that instant, it was as if she passed him her crown, a vow he carried quietly until the end of his life, ensuring that laughter remained a covenant between him and his audience. Frank Sinatra. The chairman of the board, a man Carson revered from afar and cautiously hosted with care, shared a rare moment of symmetry when Carson told him, "You taught us music could outlive the man who sings it," and Sinatra, breaking through his armor of cool, answered, "And you taught us laughter could outlive the man who tells it," their words an echo of immortality, sealing both of their legacies in an unspoken pact that art, when done honestly, never dies. Robin Williams, that whirlwind of unstoppable energy who turned every interview into a circus, left Carson both exhausted and enchanted, but behind the manic brilliance, Johnny saw fragility, and on Robin's last visit, he gently placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "You don't have to be on all the time, you're enough, just as you are," words that visibly stunned Robin, who with rare stillness replied, "Then I learned it from you," and though brief, the exchange was a tender gift of permission, an acknowledgement that behind the spotlight, the man was enough. And years later, after Robin's tragic passing, those words echoed like prophecy. Carson's quiet attempt to comfort a restless soul. David Letterman, the reluctant heir who both idolized and feared him, was given a coronation never broadcast, as Carson, in one of their final conversations, told him, "Dave, you don't need my blessing. You already have it," and for Letterman, who spent his career chasing Carson's shadow, those words were both validation and liberation. The unseen passing of a torch NBC never officially acknowledged but which Johnny himself had quietly bestowed. Joan Rivers, once his protege, later his estranged rival, remained the most painful wound of his career. Their friendship fractured when she launched her own late-night show without telling him, and though they never reconciled, Carson confided to a close friend, "She made me proud, even when she broke my heart," words Joan never heard but which reveal a man who, despite his silence, never stopped respecting the talent of the woman he once championed. their tragedy lying not in betrayal but in words left unsaid. Richard Pryor, raw, fearless, and unfiltered, brought honesty to Carson's stage unlike anyone else, and in their final meeting Johnny told him, "You told the truth when no one else dared," to which Pryor, weary from battles both personal and cultural, replied, "And you gave me a place to tell it," and in that brief exchange, the two acknowledged comedy not as mere laughter but as truth-telling, a dangerous, powerful force that could expose the world even as it entertained. Bette Midler, radiant and soulful, delivered perhaps the most unforgettable farewell when she sang, "One for My Baby," on Carson's final night, her voice wrapping around him like a tender embrace, and off-camera, Johnny whispered, "Betty, you just sang me out of a life," to which she kissed his cheek and replied, "Then let it be the sweetest song you ever leave with," a moment drenched in nostalgia, tenderness, and the undeniable knowledge that the curtain was falling for good. But in the end, Johnny's truest final words were reserved not for a celebrity, not for a guest, but for Ed McMahon, his loyal sidekick of 30 years, who had sat beside him through triumph and turbulence. And as the set went dark, the cameras powered down, and the applause echoed into silence, Johnny turned to Ed and whispered, "We did it our way, didn't we?" And with tears choking his voice, Ed nodded, and with that, Johnny Carson walked away, not just from television, but from an entire era of American life, leaving behind not only laughter but fragments of truth, farewells too personal for the spotlight, and final words that reveal more about him than any monologue ever could, because in those whispered goodbyes we see a man who, despite being larger than life, carried the same fears, loves, regrets, and hopes we all do, and though Johnny Carson has been gone for decades, his echoes remain immortal, his laughter still rolling through time, and his final words, shared with the giants who graced his stage, remind us that while legends must one day say goodbye, their voices never truly fade, and here, on Hollywood Vault 8 AM, we keep those voices alive, unlocking the hidden stories of Hollywood's greatest icons, the confessions whispered in the shadows of the spotlight, and the goodbyes that shaped history. So if Johnny's last words have moved you tonight, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because every legend leaves behind a final secret, and every secret deserves to be heard.